to Cruise Shop Save. I'm Melissa, and welcome to the show. This week we have a really special guest called Dottie. She's a cruise director. She's a good friend of mine, and I spoke to her on Tuesday about what we were going to talk about, and I was dying laughing. So you are in for a treat. But before we get there, Cruise Shop Save was born because I wanted to support cruisers who are not cruising at the moment. We provide content, port information, free port maps when we go back to cruising. And we are here to support all our retailers in all the destinations that are sadly not receiving any cruises at the moment. So we're going to start a program where we're going to report to you about what's going on in the ports, because there's been some changes. But if you wouldn't mind following me on my social media, that would be great. I'm on Instagram, Cruise Shop Save. I'm on Facebook. I have a Facebook page. If you're a die-hard cruise ship fan, I also have a group if you'd like to join in. And if you'd like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, that'd be great. Also called Cruise Shop Save. But without further ado, here is my special guest tonight. Her name is Dottie. Hi, Dottie. How are you?
I'm fine, Melissa. How are you tonight?
I'm great. I'm so honored to have you on the show, because I know you and Tom, your husband, are so busy at the moment. We'll tell everybody what you guys are doing soon, but how are you?
I'm great, thank you. And it's my honor. Thank you for inviting me to be on your show. Normally it's the other way around. I'm inviting everyone to be on our show. So it's nice to have the tables turned.
Yeah, you can relax. You can just like look pretty. I know, and it's so hard, right? Putting these shows together.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, so we have our first hello from John. Hello from frosty old Minnesota, but it is at least both 0 today. Oh, that's good. Not so cold.
That's why I live in Florida, John. It's about 80 today, 79, 80 today. Nice sunny breeze. Yes.
So John is one of the cruise amigos, but he's also with Cruises for Solo Cruises. Okay. And he's very active in the cruise industry, and he always watches every week. So thank you, John, for watching. How's Ace, the cat? Oh, and here's someone who you know very well, Dottie.
Oh, Jira. Hi, Jira. Oh, my gosh. I do miss her. I think I've spent more time with her as my shopping lecturer than any other on the Oceania ships. She was with me in Alaska, in the Caribbean, and she was lucky when she was on with me, because many times she used Tom's room. The ship was sold out, so she'd move into Tom's room because he didn't use, we used it for luggage. So it was, I just love her. Hello, Jira.
I miss you, Jairus.
We miss you. Mwah. Yeah, we've kept in touch on Facebook, which has been nice.
Yeah, thank God for Facebook, social media. So you are a cruise director on cruise ships. You're with Oceania, and that's where we met. But you are celebrating an anniversary soon. What is it?
I am. On May 1st, I'll celebrate my 33rd anniversary from stepping on a ship as a crew member. I had done 7 cruises as a guest. When I was right out of school, I was working as director of public relations for McKeesport Hospital, my hometown hospital in Pennsylvania. And when I took that cruise, I just fell in love with being on the water. I grew up, McKeesport has rivers. So I grew up on rivers and lakes in Pennsylvania, but I just loved being out and seeing nothing around me but water. And I told my girlfriend, if it takes me 10 years, I'm going to do this someday. I just watched the staff. I'm like, I can do this. This isn't rocket science. But when I graduated from school, I got engaged to a gentleman I was dating in school. And so I thought, well, I have to get a job. So that was the job at the hospital. We didn't make it not even another year. We split up within a year. We never made it to the altar. Wrong guy for many reasons. But every vacation I took was a cruise. And I would just try to talk with people and talk with whomever I could get my hands on. And it was a Sitmar cruise director, Mark Edwards. who took 15 minutes out of his day to look at my resume. He said, this resume will get you a PR job in a hospital. I said, that's not what I want. I want to work on ships. He said, well, you have to have this. And he gave me what I needed, all of which I had in my background at some point, because I worked in Parks and Recreation. I worked for the YMCA. I was on the board at the YMCA, and we did lots of things with the kids, what have you. So I went home, rewrote my resume, did a letter writing campaign in 1987 that ended me absolutely nothing. Then in 1986, 1987, I took a week off from the hospital and I went down to Miami and pounded the pavement. I had my pictures in my resume in hand, and here I am out on Biscayne Boulevard, because I was staying, it was the old Best Western, which was right across from the entrance to the port. This is 35 years ago, 34 years ago. And I walked out of the hotel. I had my purple suit on, my purple shoes, my purple purse, and I didn't know where to go. And I started, it was the old Regent cruise line. They had small ships, and they had just weekend voyages, Friday to Monday. Monday to Thursday, it sat in the port of Miami. And I had gone in and I spoke with the gentleman, probably the best start I could have had, because he offered me a job right there on the spot. He said, oh, how are you today? And I'm like, what? It's not supposed to be this easy. Wow. He said, do me a favor before you accept something from me. He says, you're here for the week. He says, get as many interviews as you can, but before you accept anything, call me. So I went out, gave me all the encouragement I needed, and went to back then in the 80s, all the cruise lines with the exception of Princess and Holland America were based in Miami. So I did as many as I could. Norwegian, when I went in to speak with them, the secretaries, I spoke with them for about 10 minutes, and they said, you know what? Come back. He wasn't in that day, the gentleman that did the hiring. They said, can you come back Thursday? We'll get you in for an interview. And I'm like, you're the secretaries. You're not going to. So lo and behold, I called them on Thursday. They got the gentleman on the phone, and they said, can you be here at 2? I said, absolutely. And I went in, and we had the most wonderful interview, if you want to call it that. It was more a conversation. He said, well, there's something that I'm working on. You'd be perfect. We're not ready. When we're ready, we'll call you. So I said, okay. So I called the gentleman back at Regent, and he said, so, well, how'd you make out? And I told him what had happened. And he says, if you can get with Norwegian, he says, take it. He said, they pay the best. They take care of their crew the best. And it's a 7-day run versus what he was offering, only a 3 to 4 day run. So he said, what do you want to do? I said, I'm going to go home and wait. And I waited almost 13 months. And it was literally the day after I left the hospital. I had it up to here. We were going through some major if you want to call it crisis, a wildcat strike and what have you. PR-wise, couldn't come out smelling like a rose if I tried. So I just waited till everything settled down. I announced that I was leaving. And I told my secretary, I says, don't tell anyone I've gone yet, because I still have, 4 weeks. Just that I'm out of the office, I'll call in for messages. So I ran some errands, and I came back, and my mom said, call Ruth. She has some messages for you. And I called her, and she said, this, and she says, and a gentleman who needs to talk to you immediately. And I said, okay, give me his name. And she said, Jim Highnote. And I just screamed. And she said, who is that? I said, that's the gentleman from Norwegian Cruise Line. She says, I had a feeling that was it. So I called him, and he said, you probably thought I forgot about you. And I said, well, not forgot, but just had no openings. He says, well, if you're ready, I need you May 1st in San Juan. I said, I am ready. He says, is 4 weeks enough time to give notice for the hospital? I said, plenty of time. I never did tell him that I had left the day before. So I was unemployed for 24 hours. So I was very lucky. One door closed and another.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So May 1st is a very special day.
May 1st, the 33-year anniversary. Yes. Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hope you're back on a ship then.
I would love to think that.
I know. I would too. That would be really nice.
Yeah.
So I have this picture of you. I I don't want to insult you, but this does look kind of old because it's black and white.
Well, it's a black and white picture. I think one of the ship's photographers took that of me. We were at the Acropolis in Athens. And back then, I mean, when I first went to Europe on the Norwegian Crown, this is in 96, I think it was. Or no, it was 97. This was all new to me. So I did as many tours. We were allowed to escort tours. I did as many tours as possible. You can tell how this is an old picture because I could tuck my shirt into.
But what did you get hired for?
What's that?
What did you get hired for?
I started as a social hostess. I was a year as a social hostess, and I knew I could do more. And there was a time when we had no ACD for a period of 2 months. And the cruise director said, hey, I need someone to do the schedule. This is on the Starward. You know, we had a staff of 4 divers, 6 cast, social hostess, fitness director, and shore excursion manager. That was it. That was the department back then. And he offered it to the shore excursion manager because they were next in line. After the ACD, and he didn't want to do it. And I said, I'll do it. So I did both the ACD and social hostess duties, which again, it's not rocket science. No. And so when it came time to get promoted, you know, the cruise director said that Dottie Kulasa is ready for the ACD position. She's already done it for us voluntarily. So let's give her the shot. So I was lucky. And I did 3 years as assistant, and I did relief. I was never on a ship more than 4 weeks, pack my bags, get to another ship, 4 weeks, another ship, 4 weeks, and then vacation. Because we would do 3 months on, 1 month off. Yeah. But I learned all the ships, all the itineraries. So when it came time when there was a space for CD, they were like, well, who knows that itinerary? Well, Dottie does. Who knows that ship? Dottie does. So I was fortunate. I went in to resign, actually. My dad had a heart attack, and I went in to resign. I told my mom, I said it had been 4 or 5 years, and I said, let me come home and help you get Dad back up on his feet. I'm like, I've done this. I'll find something to do. Don't worry about it. And they said, okay, if that's what you want to do. So I went in to resign, and he offered me a CD position. And I said, well, I've got to check with my mom and dad because they think I'm coming home. And so I checked with my mom and dad, and they said, you know what, take it. If you don't like it, at least you leave in the top position. You know, at least you gave it a shot. Good. Yeah, exactly. And so they gave me 3 months off to take care of my dad and get my dad back up on his feet, which was great. And then I went out as one of Norwegian's cruise directors. Wow.
And this photograph, I'm not sure if it is your parents. This one here.
Yes. This was my, I want to say, my first year at sea. My dad loved the sun. And I think that was on the Starward. That was their first cruise with me. And May 1st is their wedding anniversary, and I couldn't be with them. It was their 50th anniversary the day I left ships. So I couldn't be with them for their anniversary. So the following year, I brought them on a cruise for their anniversary.
So May 1st is quite the date for you.
It is. It was my mom and dad's wedding date. I started working on ships. And when Tom proposed, we were going to wait until 2000 to get married. And he said, you know, do you want to talk about a date? And I said, well, May 1st is the only day that means anything to me, because it was mom and dad's anniversary, and they were married 56 years when dad passed away. And he says, he was counting ahead. He says, I don't think it's a Saturday or a Friday in 2000. And I was in dry dock on the Norwegian Dream in Bremerhaven, hadn't even unpacked my bags. This is the days when you had to trudge down the steps to the terminal, to a payphone, and count the hours because we were in Germany. They were back in the States. And I went back to my room, and I tore my suitcase apart looking for a calendar because I knew I had one. And I looked at the year 1999, and May 1st was a Saturday. So I called my mom the next morning, and I said, Mom, I said, is it okay if I pick your date as my wedding day? And she says, absolutely. She says, I would love it. And so then I called Tom, and I said, would it be okay to move the wedding date up a year? And he said, absolutely. He said, that's fine by me. Now, I would have been 40 in 2000. I'll give away my age. I would have been 40 in 2000. In 1999, I was still 39. He says, I'd rather not tell my friends I'm marrying a broad over 40 or marrying a 40-year-old.
That's so
I said,
funny.
thanks, Tom. Now, for everyone out there, my husband is a stand-up comedian. So
Right, I was just going to say, Tom
he's
Drake.
always cracking jokes about everything. So
He's good. So I have this fabulous photograph.
that's Tom. And that was the year, I want to say that was the year we met. Now you can really see how skinny I was. And him too. That was at the Acropolis as well. That was another. I used to talk him into going on tours because it was his first time in Europe as well. He was interested in going on tours too. So every now and then I'd get him on one of my tour buses. So it was fun to have him along, and we just got to know each other through the first 6 months or so that he was on the Norwegian Crown with me. So it was fun.
Amazing. I love it. And you know what I've just realized? Well, so first of all, this is Big Bob. Do you know
Bob.
Big Bob?
I don't know. What's his last name?
Bob Leiniger. He was on the show last week, but he's saying, hello, Dottie and Melissa. I'm loving this interview. Hey, Bob.
I saw a little bit of his interview. Hi, Bob. I didn't see all of it because I think we were taping that day as well. So I tuned in for a little while, but I'll have to go back and watch the whole thing now.
Yeah,
sure. No, I don't think I know. I think I know him from seeing him on your site, but I don't know him from the industry.
Yeah, Bob's great. He's also a cruise director. He's due to go on Silver Seas, but he also was the director of entertainment on the World Residency, which was really interesting.
Oh, wow.
He talks about that last week.
A lot of our Oceania chefs. I think Thierry Talon was on the World as well.
Yeah, he worked with Tom.
Tom. Everybody knows Tom.
So tell us about Tom, though. So Tom is a comedian, very funny. Very funny.
He came on you know what, when I was on, I was assigned in the 90s to the SS Norway, and I fell in love with that ship. I was on her as assistant cruise director, but when I became the cruise director on her, I loved, absolutely. I mean, we had the themed cruises all the time. That was one of the country cruises. The only one I remember in there is in the center, the gentleman with the peach shirt, that's Jerry Reed. He was on one of them, but we used to do the country cruises, the 50s and 60s, Paul Revere and the Raiders, Bobby V, I'm sorry, Mary Wilson. I mean, we used to get all of them on the jazz cruises, the sports cruises. It was just there. It was all happening on that ship. Yeah. And when they asked me to leave it, I cried. I'm like, no, I don't want to leave my Norway. And they said, but we need you to the vice president of hotel operations had to call me and say, Dottie, I need you to bring NCL into Europe. Will you please do it? And I'm like, okay. But had I not done it, I wouldn't have met Tom. I met Tom my first year on the Norwegian Crown. He came in mid-cruise, and he had come into the office, and I was sitting at my assistant's desk. I had a little cubby hole off to the side, but I was out in the larger office, and he walked in, and he says, hi, I'm Tom Drake, the new comedian. I'm looking for the cruise director. And I stood up, I put out my hand, and I said, you found her. And he said he felt something the minute he shook my hand.
Oh, my God.
Then he would say gas. It was gas. It was gas. Thank you. But it took me a little while longer. We met in, I want to say it was April or May. And in December, we started hanging around together. A little bit more. And then about a year and a half later, he proposed. I never thought he would propose because I am wife number 3. And never thought. I told my entertainment director, I said, if you can put him on my ship, fine. If not, it's going to die a natural death. Trust me. Because I didn't think he wanted to get serious with anyone. It didn't sound like it anyway. I wouldn't either if I had two divorces behind me. But one night on I think it was the Norwegian Majesty, he said, what do you think about getting married? And I'm like, and I didn't get excited because I knew if I got excited, he'd run out the door.
Right. You played it cool.
So I said, sure, one day, whenever. And the next day, I was leaving the next day, he had told my replacement that he had proposed to me the night before. I figured, well, he told someone, I can tell everyone. So the next, I think it was a couple of weeks. It was right before I did the Norway transatlantic back to Le Havre. I was joining the ship in the cruise prior. And there he worked on with Thierry Talon. He said, why don't you go in to see Wendy at Diamonds International in St. Thomas? Because I was joining the ship in St. Thomas. He said, pick out a couple different rings that you'd like, and then I'll call Wendy. So I went in, and Wendy and I had fun shopping. Yeah. And so I told her which my preference was, which I still have on my hand. And then he called and arranged the size of the stone and arranged the details to get it shipped to him in the States. So
Diamonds International, the go-to jewelers for all cruise ship personnel.
My gosh. Well, this was my first ring. I bought this for myself when I got assigned to the Norway. And when I went in, even Denny Anderson, who I took his place on the ship, he says, you've got to go in and see Wendy. She's going to want you wearing one of her stones.
Right.
And because we did the shopping promotion back then. And I went in and I looked and I saw a ring and I said, that's the one I want. They gave me the price. I gave them a 50% deposit. And I said, I'll give you the rest when I come back from vacation. And she said, oh, no worries. She said, I know where you live. So I came back and I went in the first week. I think I had 3 cruises before I went on vacation, but I wanted to have the ring on right away so I could say my diamond comes from Diamonds International. And when I went in to finish paying my first week back after vacation, went in to make the final payment. And she says, it's paid for. She says, your sales were through the roof.
Oh my God.
So whatever I paid for the deposit was the price for me. So those were the days.
Those were the days, yeah. I know. And I love Wendy in September.
Oh, I do too. I bought my tennis bracelet came from her. My earrings came from John in Cozumel. He did another bracelet for me. It was a 4 carat, and unfortunately, I lost it. I was sick coming off the Nautica in Greece, and the clasp was, I think it just hit the wrong way, and it fell off. And I tore my purse apart.
Safety chain.
I know. Now I have one on here. Yeah, I have one on here. But
I know what you mean.
Sick. Oh, I was sick when I lost it.
I bet. Okay, Jairus says Dottie is decked out diamonds.
and Ash from Majesty. This was a Valentine's Day present from Tom. I had given him 2 stones. I just wanted 2 diamonds stacked. Yeah. And he went in and he says, she wants me to do this. He says, but how much is that? And Ash gave him the price. He says, wrap it up. And he gave me my stones back and this for Valentine's Day. This goes back when we were on Holland America, if I'm not mistaken, back in, mid, 2003, 2004.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, you've been on a lot of different cruise lines. But you've also been to lots of amazing places in the world. Yeah, this is an amazing picture.
That was obviously the Twin Towers in New York. That was in 1996, 97, 1990. What year was it? 1997, because Tom and I were already engaged. So it was in the late 97. We had, that was the crossing to Le Havre. And it was the first time the ship had been back into Le Havre since Closter had purchased it in 1974, I want to say. Right. And then he refurbished it for the Norway. So when we were leaving New York, Paul Baya, who's one of our cruise directors with Oceania now, he was on my staff at the time. He took that picture. Wow. He took that picture, and that is one of my favorite pictures because that's me. We had the streamers out back then. You could throw streamers. Yeah. It was a beautiful day sailing from New York, and the beautiful Twin Towers were still standing. But yes, I was with Norwegian for 15 and a half years, then went to Holland America for 3 years, and had real short stints with Princess, Celebrity, and Azamara. And then now the last 12 years with Oceania Cruises.
Wow. Yeah, great cruise line. Oceania.
Oh, fabulous. Fabulous. The food, the guests.
The guest experience. Of going on a cruise. I have only great things to say about Oceania. It's everything you want from a cruise, isn't
It
it?
really is. It really is. The rooms are great, no matter where you are on the ship. The entertainment is spectacular. We don't have the big productions that the Oasis class and the Norwegian, the large Norwegian cruise line ships have, but the guests enjoy what we present. We have the guest entertainers, just like every other ship in the fleet, but it's intimate, but yet spacious. And that's what I love. You don't
queues. Yeah, there's no queues.
No.
And it's fancy, the artwork's beautiful. Each ship is different. I believe it's Frank Del Rio's private art collection.
He picks out every work of art for every ship.
Amazing.
We met a friend of his, and when they bought I think it was the third R class ship, they were somewhere shopping. Every port they went shopping, and they're carrying these big busts back to the ship, and they landed in the spa. It were the busts, the ancient busts that were in the Canyon Ranch Spa.
Wow! No way. That's crazy. That's so funny. But I've got some more pictures here. Well, let's guess where this is. That's such a great picture.
My brother and sister-in-law, Ben and Kathy, were on that cruise with me, and we had to take them on the gondola ride. Tom was there too. And I don't know what made me I'm like, this is heaven. I mean, that is the epitome of our jobs.
Yeah.
We get to visit Venice. I've been to Venice how many times?
Yeah.
3 dozen times, 4 dozen times, and I never tire of it. Absolutely.
I know, you that. One of my favorite places.
Yeah, it is mine too.
I love Europe. I mean,
yeah.
And then we have this. This is fabulous.
That's in St. Petersburg, Russia. That was my first year. And again, traveling, touring. They wanted us on the tours anyway. And that was touring the Hermitage and the Summer Palace. And it was cold. You can see I have a turtleneck on. Yeah. It was cold in May and June. Finally got warm in July and August in Russia. But spent the summer visiting everywhere in Russia. We used to go to we used to go to the black market and buy CDs for $1, music CDs, concert CDs for $1. We'd get all the computer programs for like $1.
Wow.
We'd buy the series of shows, like you'd get the whole series for $1. It was unbelievable. But just going out, having the freedom to go out and look in the ports of call. I loved doing that.
I know, it's great. And then we have I already showed that one. Sorry.
Okay.
Here that this is a cool picture. What's going on here?
Norwegian Crown. That's the Norwegian Crown. We're in the first locks in the Panama Canal. And back then the photographers used to get off, walk on the wall of the gate and take the pictures.
No way.
Myself, my sister, my brother and sister-in-law are all standing on the wing of the bridge. And if you look just inside the last window before the picture's cut off, that is my mom. Yeah. My mom, after I had done the Panama Canal and I brought video home, she says, I'd really like to do that. That was the last cruise she did with me. And my sister came with her because I said, Jan, I just need someone to be there with mom because mom was in her 80s. Right. And my brother and sister-in-law were going to do their kind of thing. So Jan said, I'll come, but she could only come from there to Peru. And then her and my mom got off in Peru and flew home, which was fine because it was 15 days that they were on the ship. But I absolutely loved having my mom on the bridge with me.
This is such a great picture.
And it just, oh my gosh, back in the day, I mean, look at the wing of the bridge. You can't do that today. You can't do that. That's back in 90, that would have been in 98, 97, 98.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Those were the days.
I started on ship. Our paths never crossed until 6 years ago on Oceania. Yeah. But I started in 96. And it was the good old days.
Yeah. You can imagine what the late 80s and early 90s were like. Woo!
Like when you said about Regent only sailed the weekend.
Well, that wasn't this regent. It was the old. It was the prior. Yeah, it was another. Yeah, it was before the Regent Seven Seas came on line.
Right.
Well, this is the old regent. They had 2 little ships that would sail the weekends. But yeah, that was a different regent cruise line at the time.
Yeah. And then we have this picture here.
Now, before we go on, say, Dottie, where's your favorite place in the world?
Where's your favorite place in the world?
Scotland.
Is it really?
I fell in love with Edinburgh when I first saw it for whatever reason. That picture's at Loch Ness when I went to look for the Loch Ness monster.
Right.
And again, you can see turtlenecks. It was cold when we traveled in the early season in Europe. But no, when I went into the Edinburgh Castle for the first time, I felt like I belonged. I took my headphones off because I got the tape to walk around and tour the castle. I took it off and I just walked around. I felt like I belonged there, like I had lived it, like maybe I was a handmaiden, the Mary Queen of Scots in another lifetime. Wow. But I absolutely love Edinburgh. That's my favorite place. Not in the wintertime.
No, because it's cold. Ooh. Why do you think you had that like physical feeling?
I think I was a handmaiden to Mary Queen of Scots in a former lifetime. I swear. What else could it have been?
Yeah.
I don't know what else it could have been.
Well, I would love for you to come back to Europe.
I know. We're hoping that
south, but I'll meet you in Scotland because I'm with you. I love Scotland. I
loved Scotland. St. Andrews we went to, Greenock.
Guy.
I never went to Glasgow because by the time it was a short day, and by the time you got there and back to the ship, it wasn't, for me, the time was a factor because we do have to get back to work.
Yeah. The Isle of Skye is 4 hours from Glasgow. It's so remote. And it is like, even Scotland, when you go up to Edinburgh, I live in England, it is like going to another country. It's so beautiful. Yeah, you're right.
We were supposed to, when the pandemic hit, Tom and I were supposed to get off of the Serena in, I want to say Miami, or no, it was in Barcelona, and then rejoin in Ireland. And I told Tom, he said, what do you want to do? He says, it's around our anniversary, or no, it was later in the year. He said, we'll postpone our anniversary trip. He said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to stay in a castle in Ireland. So that was our next trip. We were going to go a week before and spend a week in a castle in Ireland. I would love to live in a castle. Would love that. You have to have security everywhere, to make sure. It's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But you know what? Getting back to the good old days, when cruising was free. For us, it was just I don't want to say free for all, but we could do whatever we want for the most part, especially the team.
There weren't rules though. There was still quite a few rules. Some of them were quite archaic, but
we used to have to be back on the ship 30 minutes before the ship sailed. Well, one day in St. Martin, there was a group of us, and it was everyone from the entertainment department, the cruise director, assistant, shore excursion manager, myself, the band leader, the chief photographer, the fitness person. There were 7 of us. We decided to go over to Anguilla. So we caught the ferry we took the cab over to the French side, went over, had a gorgeous day on the beach, had lunch. Coming back, well, we didn't anticipate the traffic. We were supposed to be back by 6:30, and it was just about 5 after 6 when we got back to St. Martin on the French side, and the traffic was bumper to bumper. Back then, this is 33 years ago, you didn't have cell phones to call and say, hey, we're going to be late. So we're sweating it out, especially the cruise director. I was only the social hostess, so I was okay. But we literally pulled up, and this is the old pier in St. Martin that was all the way outside of town, cut it out on the water.
Wow.
The taxi pulled up right at the gangway. The staff captain was standing at the top of the gangway, and that was back in the day when you had to get your pass to leave the ship, and you handed it back in. 7 passes in his hand at 5 minutes to 7. I thought the captain was going to kill us. I thought, okay, I'm going to get a written warning. I mean, it's going to happen. Never, ever, ever got a warning. The cruise director was spoken to, and he spoke to us, obviously, so it didn't happen again, but I was never late again.
Wow. But Captain helps. And you're right, like we're talking, and even some of these pictures, I know none of these pictures were taken on a cell phone.
No, no, those were all camera.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
those were all cameras.
Yeah, your time at sea, you must have made some doozies.
Yeah, part of our job, as you know, is to talk. And we talk and we talk and we talk. One day on, I want to say it was the Starboard. This was back when I was an ACD, or I was filling in. I think I could use that as an excuse. And the dive locker at the time was on what we called Caribbean deck. So, you know, they would have to go down. And so the cruise director asked if I would make the announcements for the evening. And absolutely, I would, you know, no matter what they asked, sure, you do it. So I went down to the PA. And back then it was at the purser's desk where people go by all the time and they try to get you to laugh and what have you. So I'm making the announcement and I said, don't forget, for all of you going on the dive-in snorkeling tour tomorrow, pick up your dive gear in the dive locker on Caribbean deck instead of Caribbean deck. Well, I didn't hear myself say that. And when I finished, the shore excursion manager walked by and he said, did you hear what you said? And I'm like, what? He said, you said dick instead of deck. And I'm like, no, I didn't. And everyone around them said, yes, you did. So embarrassed. So embarrassed. I couldn't believe it. So, because sometimes your head is already on the next thing you're talking about. I didn't even hear myself say that. And probably the worst I'd ever done, I was on the Azamara Journey, and I enjoyed my time on the Azamara Journey. I was working with Captain Carl Smith, who was one of the best captains I'd ever worked with. And when I was on the Galaxy, Damien O'Connor was my general manager, and I fell in love with him. He was just amazing to work for. And that's why, in a way, I mean, they didn't allow Tom and me to work together, so that's why we went to Oceania. They offered us on together, off together. They offered us 18 months of work, and they said, let's see how this goes, and we'll go from there. So I'm on the Azamara Journey, and obviously the role of the cruise director is to provide information. Well, we were going into Santorini the next day, and before the show, I would always talk about what was happening the next day, where we were going to be, what time, what to take ashore with you. And in Santorini, I always felt it was my obligation to tell our guests about riding the donkeys, because I always enjoyed doing that. I always had a blast doing that. So that night I was telling them to make sure that they really wanted to have fun, they could ride the donkeys. They could walk up the steps. It was 580 steps. They could ride the vernacular, or if you want to have fun, ride the donkey. I said, but please be careful. Take a beach towel to put down over the donkey. And you want to be careful as you go up the steps to keep your feet out a little bit, because they tend to go to the shade when they round the bends, and the flowers would provide some shade. So keep your feet out. If not, you're going to be brush burned. So you just push off the wall and the donkeys, you can go. So, and I said, whatever you do, don't go down on the donkeys. And I kept on going, and the audience was laughing, and I'm like, "What are you laughing? What are you laughing?" And when I realized that I said, "Don't go down on the donkey," what I had meant was, "Don't go down the hill, don't go down the steps on the donkey, not to go down on the donkey." So it was very, I mean, I turned probably 10 shades of red. I was never so embarrassed in my life. Fortunately, it was all adults, so they laughed it off. But you know how those donkeys are. They know the food is at the bottom of the hill, and they tear down the steps. But yeah, that was probably in my career, that was probably my biggest faux pas on stage. I forgot a guest entertainer's last name one time. Thanks, Bob. So embarrassing. So embarrassing.
I was just gonna say, if you said that, I was just gonna say I went down on a donkey once. I realized what you said. I mean, I did.
No, I wasn't the only one.
Oh my goodness. Oh, God, you crack me up so much.
Oh God, I'll never forget that. And I've never done that again. I've talked about Santorini, but I've never said that again. Fortunately.
Oh, speaking of laughing,
that was in Cape Town, not Cape Town, Cape Horn. Going around Cape Horn on the Norwegian Crown, we used to do the Arctic ceremony, and we would literally, the guys would drop a bucket overboard, pick it up, and then we would have a ladle. The officers would come down, put the Norwegian hat on the guests, and they would pour a ladle of ice cold water over their shoulder, and then they had to drink a shot of aquavit.
Yeah. You're dying laughing in this picture.
Well, I put a shower cap on. I said, I got to go back to work. I can't get my hair wet. And Esteban was one of the maitre d's. He was a dear friend back in the day on the Norwegian Crown. And I said, come on, do it with me. But he didn't have the hat or the rain cap, the shower cap.
You look like you're dying laughing.
Yeah, we were.
This is a great picture.
That was, again, my mom and dad on, that would have been on the Starward as well. Remember the skit, If I Were Not Upon the Sea?
Yes.
Afterwards, we would take pictures with the guest. And the ballerina, which is Louise Lamar, that was our cruise director at the time. Pete Pullman is the flag, the fluttering flag.
Yeah.
Pete Pullman, he was the ACD. Gary Perrone was the shore excursion manager, and I was the social hostess. And I was the seamstress. He was the undertaker, and I was the seamstress in the script. But we absolutely love doing that show. Let's see. Paulette Miller, fellow Steeler fan here from Pittsburgh. Oh, from Lynchburg. Former cruise staff was Sitmar and Princess. I did 3 cruises on Princess, I'm sure, or on Sitmar. That was a line I wanted to work on originally because I just fell in love with the Italian officers.
Don't tell Tom.
No, he doesn't know that. He met one of them.
Thanks for watching. It's good to have you on the show.
Wow.
So If I Were Not Upon the Sea.
Yes.
Big Bob was talking about that last week. I can't remember if we talked about it in private or he talked about it on the show. Because I've got a funny, if Bob's still watching, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of his friends wrote it or something. I don't know. Somebody
it goes back. It's an old Benny Hill skit.
Oh,
it's an old Benny Hill skit. We cleaned it up for the ships. It was cleaned up to be used on the ships. You can imagine Benny Hill.
Right.
Business, I believe, still does it. We don't do it. I mean, I don't know whether Norwegian Cruise Line does it anymore, but we never did it on Oceania. I tried to do it on the Norwegian Dream. This is in 2000, 2001, no, 2002, but it just didn't have the same effect. It just, the staff didn't know the show because we would do what we called the Roaring 20s in review.
Yeah.
And that was all slapstick, one-liners, just on the edge kind of jokes. And then we would end with If I Were Not Upon the Sea.
Oh, so, I used to love it.
I haven't done that. Oh, Lord, I can't remember the last time I did it.
I used to love it.
I found a VHS tape of one of the shows. I've got to transfer it, though, because it's on VHS. And I have a VHS player, so Tom bought me the connection, so I just have to sit and do it. Maybe I'll do it this weekend.
Well, when you've done it, let us know, and we'll put it on the website to Cruise Shop Save. That'd be great.
Sure.
And what's going on here?
This was my first time crossing the equator on the Norwegian Crown at the back pool, and we had even my mom got christened. But I told the shore excursion manager was King Neptune. I said, just a little bit on my mom's nose. But I got my older brother, his hair is always perfect. I had eggs in my pocket. So when he came up, I took 2 eggs and smashed him on his head and pushed him into the pool after he got slimed. But I was the last one in the pool after about 1,300 people got slimed and thrown in the pool. I was the last one in, and that was I can't tell who that is around. I think it was some guests that threw me in after I got slimed. They picked me up and threw me in the pool. So, but those were the days. Oh my gosh, we used to have so much fun with those.
Yeah.
We just did in Iceland when we were traveling the fjord. We had a facade of a Viking ship cut out that the guests could have pictures taken with. Everyone was in costume, and we did the ice water over their head for a christening going through the Iceland fjord. So it's fun when we can do those kinds of things. Tom always writes my scripts for me, so they're always funny. I make him take an oath.
Wow.
The King Neptune ceremony, we start with an oath, and it's always funny.
Yeah.
And it's just to have fun and remember the beautiful days that we've gone through, these gorgeous waters. That was a gorgeous day. Graham Dennison was painting a scene from that fjord out on the deck when we went in, our artist in residence. He was on the what ship was that on? That had to be the Riviera, because Jason was my ACD.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So speaking of Tom writing your you have not been lazy since lockdown, because unfortunately since March the cruise ships have been on hold, and we will be coming back slowly and but surely. But in the meantime, what have you guys been doing?
Well, Tom, as I mentioned, my husband is a stand-up comedian, and he's used to being fairly active within his career and his talent. So he's always writing, he's always putting together. All of his material is written. It's not, every now and then he'll throw in a joke just to surprise him, but he writes his own material, and he prides himself being true to the stand-up form of comedy. Well, we got home. He got home March 18th. I came home the following week. We sat around for a while. I did some projects around the house. A friend of his son is in radio, and he was interviewing some pretty big heavy hitters. And he talked to BJ, and he said, how is he doing these things? How is he doing these interviews? So I started talking, and Tom looked into internet radio. He says, I could do this. He did radio now. Before ships, he used to do radio in Fort Myers. He did a 4-hour show, the Tom Drake Show, in Fort Myers. And it was him and a buddy of his. Whenever he would be able to come in and join them, it would be the two of them for the most part, just talking for 4 hours and making fun of the news and what have you. So Tom started on May 4th by himself. I did the update and the birthdays, and then he did 2 hours on his own, really. Wow. Playing music and talking about the news. And it was technical issues. We had some technical issues that he had to get around because, of course, it was his first time. I'm in the studio right now, believe it or not. And there's boards and cameras and lights and a green screen wall behind me. But it was all a learning curve.
While you're talking, I'm just going to share. Can you see that?
Yes, yes.
So this is the work that you and Tom have done. This is unbelievable.
Now, this is the second site. There was another site with all of our past shows on, because what had happened, Tom went on a show, and then a buddy of his came on, and he said, hey, I'll be your Ed McMahon if you want me to. So John came on the show with Tom, and then about a month later, BJ Odom, who's Tom's friend in radio, he had just left another show, and he said, well, I'll join you. And then when BJ joined, I joined. So it was the four of us just talking to guest entertainers, talking to guest speakers, talking to chefs, our Oceania Culinary Center chefs, talking to our chefs, our executive chefs, general managers, just trying to keep everyone in touch with each other, just to keep, just what you're doing, to keep everyone connected. And it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of laughs. We did so many different things. And now these are the updates now. We went from a daily show, Monday through Friday. Then we went to a Saturday show. And it's a lot of work, as you know it. Yeah. So Tom has decided to go back to where he started, in radio, and he's bringing back the Tom Drake Show. I'm going
Cool.
to help him, and BJ's going to come on every now and then and do a couple spots here and there. But it's going to be Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. And the easiest way to listen to it is on the website, www.bestatseradio.com. There'll be a link to Live 365, which is the radio host for the show. And then once it's on there, then Tom's going to have it on the website as well. You can listen to it directly on the website. But that's his logo from 35, 38 years ago.
Wow, is it really?
When he did, and we found it, fortunately. It's a long time and a lot of files we had to go through. But he's just, I marvel at the fact that he can talk as long as he can. And make things funny, make things interesting, just talking with people and bringing out the best in them, no matter who we're speaking with. And we have a lot of Oceania guests tuning in, a lot of family, obviously, and a lot of friends from Facebook that, obviously we had it on social media. And it was on YouTube, it was on Facebook, it was on Twitch, it was on D-Link, it was on 4 or 5 different sites. Plus the show was on the website afterwards that if you missed a show, you could always catch up. Or if you wanted to just hear the interview with the chefs, you could hear the interview. You can just go on and catch that. But we had our doctor from Moffitt Cancer Center. Tom and I are both cancer survivors. We had our doctor, Dr. Spiess, on to talk about cancer and men because it's a relevant topic.
Yeah,
so no matter, it wasn't all cruising. We tried to make it all cruising, and we did 99% of the time. But as long as it was interesting, that's all we wanted to make sure.
I love it. And I think you're right. You are on quite a few platforms, but the best way to watch you.
Best way is bestatseradio.com. Yeah. Now see, I was doing just the audio of the updates, but now Tom has me doing it live on camera. So now I have to do my hair every day. I've got to do makeup every day, lipstick every day. That was probably the best part. When I came home, I didn't set my hair for 2 months because we didn't go anywhere. And if I did go anywhere, I put a ball cap on.
I know. I didn't put makeup on for like a month, and then when I put it on, I was like, "Oh, that feels weird."
I know it was 2 months. All of March, and even in May, they were on the Zoom just they could see each other. But I was off Zoom. I was on audio wise, but not video. I just had mine off. I sit there in my T-shirt, and my hair wasn't done, pinned back with my bobby pins. And speaking of hair, probably the funniest question I ever had asked of me, a little lady came up to me on the Norwegian Sky, and it was the first new ship for Norwegian in many years, and I brought the ship into service, which was a whole new ball of wax. My word, I've never worked so hard in my life. And she came up to me at the end of the cruise, and she says, "May I ask you a personal question?" I said, "Sure. Our lives are open books." And I said, "Sure." I figured, okay, how old are you? How much do you weigh? And she says, "Where do you have your wigs made?" And I just started laughing. And I said, "Why do you think it's a wig?" She said, "Because it always looks perfect." I said, "Grab it and pull it. It's real." I was dying. I couldn't believe it. But the hair, because my hair is so straight, it's poker straight. If I don't mousse it, set it, tease it, and spray it with a freezing spray, it falls out right away. So I have to do the whole thing in order for it to stay in. Can you imagine? I would go out on deck for the deck party, and it would be flat by the time I would finish. So I had to go through the whole setting and freezing. I have a great freezing hairspray. This stuff is phenomenal, and it's only $5 a can. Salon Graphics freezing hairspray.
I'm writing that down because your hair always looks great.
Yeah, you should be able. I can sleep on it, get up, and I usually set it every day myself. But I can sleep on it. I literally sleep on my back. I don't turn. I have my neck. We're really getting into silly stuff.
That's so
Giannis, hello. Oh my gosh, that's a dear associate of former assistant cruise director and cruise director now, blazing trails in the industry, Shannon McKee, with two of her companies that she's founded. She's and Jairus works with her. Oh, how nice. Zelia is something that our cruisers, your audience may want to look into as well. I want to say it's Zielia, and it's a site for cruisers and crew. It gives you every bit of information you could need for a port of call, like where you could get free Wi-Fi, where you could do this, where they offer like free drinks for crew or come in for a discount. You get so much off. It's a wonderful site that she has started. So if anyone's interested, it's called Zelia, and Shannon and Jairus, they had started. That's just one of her companies that she started. She's just, like I said, blazing trails in the industry. She went from social hostess to assistant to cruise director. She was a traveling rep for the sales department, and then she went into onboard revenue, and then she left and just started her own company. She's done really, really well. I'm very proud of her.
Maybe she can come on the show.
Oh, you would love her. You would love her.
Well, we'll need to connect.
We had her on the show. I want to say 2 or 3 weeks ago. But yeah, I mean, I can certainly connect the two of you.
Yes, please. Classy, you should have heard what she said.
We all are.
That was not classy.
Oh.
Oh my God, this has been
so many wonderful people that over 33 years, you can imagine the people that I've met. And I literally keep in touch. There was a brother and sister who used to travel on the Norway with me all the time. And after that, I didn't see them, but we kept in touch. I had them on my Christmas card list, and they would send me notes. And when I was going through pictures to send to you, I came across pictures of them. He has passed since, but she's still around. So I'm going to send the pictures that I found of us to her to look at. And if she wants to keep them, she can keep them. If not, send them back. But just you meet the best people on a cruise ship. You meet some jerks here and there too. But,
yeah, it brings out the best in people too. Cruising.
They're on vacation to have fun. And we're the spark plugs. We make it happen. We ignite that party, and then you can just stand back and watch it, because once it gets started, it doesn't need a whole lot to keep it going. They're ready to have, all they need is that jump to get them going.
It's true. It's a tsunami of people just dying to get back to cruise ships. And I just feel like once it starts opening up, the ships are going to be packed. And I just feel like it's just going to be, because people will be so excited to go back and so appreciative. And I, for one, will take millions of photographs, because I got complacent. And I got to the point when I was going on ships to hang out with Jira. I stopped taking pictures, and I'll definitely do it again. That's amazing, Jira.
I take a lot of pictures out.
It is the best.
When I got my first video camera, I want to transfer those videos, because I've never, you take them. I always would show my mom, because she was always interested. My aunts would come up and they would sit and watch too, but I never transferred them over or, did anything with them after that. They just sat in a box. So,
I know.
And then, you would think in a year's time, I've been home. Why haven't I already done it?
Oh, no, I hear you. The days just go by. It's crazy. But
it's hard to believe we're coming up on a year in March that we're home a year. Because I was just out one cruise. I was in the middle of my first cruise when we got the word.
I know. So sad. Fingers crossed, you're back on a ship for the first time.
Yes.
And will you please come back and talk to us again? Maybe Tom can find time to come.
Tom would love to. You won't get a word in edgewise.
That's okay. I'll just sit back and drink wine.
let's get the show. Let's let him get the show underway. We'll start Monday the 22nd. So let's get the show underway. And I'm sure.
Comments.
What's that?
I'll put a link in the comments. So you
great.
can.
Great.
Either way.
Okay, that'll be
We'll
great.
get it out there. And by the way, I just want you to know your news dailies
Update?
are so fabulous. I've been stealing them and posting them in my group because I
thank
have
you
not.
for sharing them.
You do such a good job. Why would I, so I hope you don't mind, but I've been using your.
Absolutely not. As long as you just tag on there, www.best at sea radio.
I will.
That way, if anyone wants to see the other ones of that, and you know what? It keeps me and Tom in tune with what's happening out there.
True.
Because sometimes, you lose track of the day, and the weeks when we had stopped the Daily Show on December 18th for the holiday, we were taking a break, and I hadn't been going to the computer. I hadn't been looking at the news, and I'm like, when I went back to start doing it, I'm thinking, oh my word, I've missed so much just not reading the articles on the internet. So now I'm back to it. Now I feel like at least I'm more up to date with what's going on.
Me too. Yeah. Well, keep up the good work. I love everything that you and Tom are doing. Big Bob just said, excellent show, enjoyed all the stories. We all look forward to getting back to ships.
Yes, we do. Amen, indeed.
Yeah. But you have a wonderful weekend. The first show is out on the 22nd of February.
22nd of February.
I look forward to that. I will be watching and
listening. It's not going to be just listening. Yeah.
I'll be listening.
So you can do other things while you're listening. That's the best part.
Make dinner. I can go down on a donkey. Stop it! Oh my God! You set me up again.
Lord.
Thanks. Yes, Jairus. We'll have you,
thank you, Jira.
And Dottie.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, have a nice day.
Thank you. Yes, it's only 3:00 here in Florida.
Right. It's gin and tonic o'clock here.
Well, it's that time all the time.
That's so funny.
It's that time all the time.
Well, cheers.
Especially when you don't have to worry about going on stage, because I don't drink before I go on stage.
Oh. Well, cheers. I'm going to get a gin. Next time I interview you, I'm going to get a gin and tonic. I feel like left out here. Thank you so much, Dottie.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Melissa.
Thanks, everyone, for watching.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Stay safe.